Hello and welcome to Missionary Messages. So today's categories are Candace, Matt, and Michael. Which today's category, they all do it kind of well, but Candace, I would say, does this the best. She grows her own food. She fixes food for her family. She's always trying to get home to make dinner, and she's always trying to use fresh ingredients. She cans. She freezes. She does a lot of different things that help give her family good food and her own body. She's always treating her body like a temple in that way that she wants to put good food into her body. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, as I talk about this topic, I want you to have an open mind and I want you to consider truths that you hear in this topic. And hopefully, they will change the way you think about what you eat. So, in our recent, not our recent, but our last general conference before this last one was in October, President Nelson, he talked about how food can become our God. And I really liked that he touched on this topic because you don't hear it very often in general conference. They don't talk a lot about the word of wisdom as it pertains to food necessarily and exercise. And in this, when I talk about this, I'm also going to include drink too. So the word of wisdom, as a lot of people know it that maybe aren't members of the church, it is to go to the temple. We free our bodies instead of restrict our bodies. We free our bodies of substances such as alcohol, cigarettes, any kind of smoking thing, drugs, and coffee and tea, except for herbal teas. A lot of people use herbal teas in the church. So those kind of basic things are the word of wisdom. And also there's a whole instruction on how we should eat healthy. Like we should exercise, which we talked a little bit about last week, but also what kind of foods we should put into our body and how we should eat healthy. So we're going to be talking about that today. The prophet told us that food, and I'm just going to say drink too, can become our God, and we begin to worship the food instead of God. So the drink that I'm talking about, because in our church we're not restricted to not drink caffeinated drinks or things like that, except if it's coffee or tea. But a lot of people drink caffeinated pops or energy drinks or things like that. So I'm kind of going to include that drinks with the food because that also can be harmful to our bodies, even though it's not restricted in any way, that we can use those things. But to me, it's the same thing as putting bad food into your body is when we put bad drinks, even though they're not alcoholic drinks, into our body. So I think when the prophet says this, that he says that food can become our God and our obsession, and that it's like we're worshiping it. I think he's telling us that if we overindulge in food and not take responsibility for the physical well-being of our bodies as it pertains to food, that we are choosing another God other than the God we think we worship. So this is like a big statement, right? A lot of people choose food over God, don't they? Because, especially if you're a member of the church, if you're choosing food over God, we are given the word of wisdom. We are giving instruction. So we are literally sometimes when we're choosing to use food in a negative way, we're choosing that food over God. So part of the word of wisdom is not just eating healthy, but we must make our bodies strong. So in order to have strong bodies, like we talked about last week, physically strong, we have to put good things into our bodies. God doesn't just give us things for the fun of it. He wants our bodies to be strong. So that's why he gives us the word of wisdom. So reasons why we need to keep the word of wisdom. We may need to serve in a physical way, whether it's church service or other kinds of service. We may need to be physically strong, and it's hard to be physically strong if you're not eating healthy. We may need to travel because something happens in the world and we don't have cars. I don't know what would happen. There could be many things that happen. We may need to walk long distances if we are serving a mission. We may have long days of working and teaching the gospel if we serve in a calling or mission or in the temple. So we need to be able to endure those long days. So we need to have good food in our body, and then combined with the physical that we talked about last week, that makes us stronger. There are many reasons, but sometimes God gives us commandments and instruction just to see if we'll be obedient. He wants to see if he is more important than food. He wants to see if he's more important than us being lazy because we don't want to go out and work or walk or run. He wants to see if we are grateful for this wonderful body that he has given us. God has given us these words of wisdom. As it pertains to the word of wisdom and food, God has given us wisdom concerning how we should use food. And we have on our website, if you go to Word of Wisdom, you can Church of Jesus Christ .org. You can go on there and you can see what kind of things are in the Word of Wisdom. You just type in Word of Wisdom. So now, food in the Word of Wisdom is different than drugs and alcohol and other things, because obviously we need food to live, right? We cannot live without food. We have to eat it. We have to drink things to keep our bodies healthy and strong. So in order to go to the temple, as members of the church, we meet with our bishop. Every 2 years, we have a meeting with our bishop. And in this meeting, he asks us a bunch of questions. And one of those questions is, are we keeping the word of wisdom? Now, obviously, we will think, okay, he's asking us this question. It means, okay, we're not drinking alcohol, we're not smoking, we're not using drugs, we're not doing those things. So we answer those questions knowing that basically that is what he's really talking to us about, because, and he's hoping, as it pertains to the food part of the word of wisdom, I'm just assuming this is what he's hoping that we will be responsible and tell him the truth. He doesn't ask us directly whether we're eating food or we're physically being fit or anything like that. It's just, are you obeying the word of wisdom? So the word of wisdom, as it pertains to food part, is something that we have to be truthful with our bishop, knowing how we're using that part of the word of wisdom. And it's easy to answer the other things, but sometimes we don't answer maybe as we should in this area, because maybe we don't want to admit that we're not using or we're not obeying the word of wisdom as it pertains to food correctly. And so we just kind of don't think about it, I think, as members of the church maybe. So the reason why our bishop's not going to ask us, are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? Are you doing those things? Because he doesn't have time to do that for everyone. It would take way too long. But not only that, it's kind of a personal thing between us and God, really. Just by looking at someone, you can't tell that they're living the word of wisdom. Now, I'm not like overweight or anything. I'm not a big person. But just because I'm not doesn't mean I'm living the word of wisdom. I could be like bulimic or anorexic or something like that. So I might not be putting food in my body at all. And he can't tell that, and he's not going to ask me those questions. So it's something that we have to evaluate in our own lives and think about whether we're answering that question truthfully or not. So when you go in to see your bishop, he's not going to ask you specific questions about the food part of the word of wisdom or the physical fitness part of the word of wisdom. And he wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at us. Maybe someone is overweight, but he's not going to ask them, are you eating healthy? He's not going to ask us things like that. So God wants us to be responsible, right? So he says in Doctrine and Covenants, behold, it is not meet that I should command in all things. For he that is compelled in all things, the same is a slothful and not a wise servant. Verily I say, men should be anxiously engaged in a good cause, and do many things of their own free will, and bring to pass much righteousness, for power is in them, wherein they are agents unto themselves, and inasmuch as men do good, they shall in no wise lose their reward. So we can apply this scripture to the word of wisdom. And God wants us to be responsible. He wants us to use our best judgment. He wants us to be anxiously engaged in the word of wisdom. And he wants us to use it to help our bodies instead of hurt our bodies. So what is the truth between you and God? If you're not a member, this might not apply to you, but you can still apply it to yourself. If with these questions and things, even though you're not a member, I think you can apply it to yourself. But if you are a member, you definitely could apply it to yourself. So when members go see the bishop, part of the word of wisdom that we are asked pertaining to food is between God and us, like I said. So I want you to think about the truth that is between you and God. Let's say you aren't a member, but just pretend that you are. And if you are keeping that part of the word of wisdom, because even if you're not a member, I think you can still apply the word of wisdom in your life, and it will help you be a stronger person. So are you living it the way you should? God expects us as members of the church to be a good example to all the people who aren't members. And when we keep the word of wisdom to the fullest, it means we are keeping our bodies healthy and strong. When we go before God or the bishop, who is a representative of God, at the time we are getting our temple interview and having our recommend, are we being honest with ourselves and with God? Because we can't go to the temple without keeping the word of wisdom. So it is easy to condemn people because they're using drugs or alcohol or other things and it's destroying their life. But maybe the substance that we can't live without, which is food, is also hurting our bodies just as much as those other substances that are obviously hurting our bodies. And sometimes it is obvious that we're hurting our bodies with food. So consider the wisdom in the word of wisdom. Even if you're not a member, consider that it might help your body to live this way. So today we're just talking about food, but next week we'll be talking about all the other substances that are negative for our body. We need to find joy in living the word of wisdom to the fullest. So like I said last time, my blessing tells me to live the word of wisdom to the fullest. That means that if I live it to the fullest, I will find joy in it, right? Living the word of wisdom, I will find joy and happiness if I'm living it to the fullest. So by using the word of wisdom as it pertains to food in my life, I will be happy and full of joy if I do it the right way. So these instructions from God are a gift to me and my body so I can have the best body possible. It is not designed, the word of wisdom is not designed to be a restriction, but instead a blessing. And when we live it to the fullest, we can be really happy. And God knows that. So living the gospel of Jesus Christ, in Preach My Gospel on page 74, it says, living the gospel of Jesus Christ can protect us from making choices that would harm us physically and spiritually. So if we replace living the gospel of Jesus Christ with the word of wisdom, it reads, living the word of wisdom can protect us from making choices that would harm us physically and spiritually. So this phrase teaches me that we are given the word of wisdom to learn to obey spiritual laws. So the word of wisdom is there to help us be more obedient to spiritual laws. So many people view the word of wisdom as rules that are difficult to follow, but it is all about learning about and obeying spiritual laws before this world was, so that we can learn to overcome this body in the present time and for eternity, which is the natural man at the present time and an eternal body forever. So we have the natural man in us right now, but we're going to one day have an eternal body. And so if we can learn to help our bodies in this life, it is going to be a blessing for us in the next life. And it'll make us stronger. So it is about learning to be godlike and make godlike independent choices that will protect us spiritually by protecting our bodies physically. There are many substances that will harm our bodies. And when we partake of these things that will harm our bodies, these things integrate to our spirits and in the process harm us spiritually. So when we aren't really living the word of wisdom to the fullest as it pertains to food, then we are harming our body spiritually too. I know that's something that people don't really think about, but it is true. God does not want us to be harmed spiritually. He wants to protect us from harm. So I believe if everyone could keep the word of wisdom to the fullest degree, every hard thing in life would be easier to overcome, and they would be able to overcome the hard things quickly. If you can master your body through food, then I think you're on the road to mastering so many things in your life, because it's the hardest thing to master. In order to live the gospel of Jesus Christ, we must live the word of wisdom, not just obey it. We must live it. So we should look like warriors. As members of the church, I imagine us being warriors. Like, I imagine people walking into our congregations and saying, whoa, look at all these people. They look like warriors. It's probably not what you get when you walk into our congregation. You probably just don't think, oh, they look like warriors. But as members of the church, I kind of have that image in my brain that that maybe we'll get it together in this life, and future generations, when Christ comes, he'll come and he'll see all these people that are members of the church, and hopefully everybody is by then, and we'll just look like warriors. We'll be strong, and we'll be like ready for his presence and saying, look at us. And he's gonna be like, whoa, you guys are awesome. So he gave us this body as a gift. This body is a gift to us, and he is testing us to see if we're going to use it the right ways and treat it right. He is watching to see how we're going to use it. He wants us to be strong, and he wants to see what we are making of this beautiful body that he gave us. Keeping care of our bodies is just as important as reading our scriptures every day. I mean, the prophets haven't said that, but I'm just saying, in my life, and I think in everybody's life, it should be just as important as reading your scriptures every day. To eat food and to exercise, eat food that's good for you and exercise, it's just as important as reading your scriptures. When people look at us, they should look at us and say, what is different about them? Oh yeah, they're keeping the word of wisdom. Their bodies are strong. They're physically strong, not only mentally, but when people come into our congregations, they should be able to know that we're living the word of wisdom just by the way we look, and say, wow, why are they all so strong? Why are they all so fit? Why are they all so able? It's just a vision I have in my head. But anyways, it would be nice if people could walk into our congregations and notice that right away before they even notice the spiritual part of us. So we should be, if we are serious about keeping God's word, then keeping the word of wisdom should be a high priority in our lives. We should be living examples of living the word of wisdom as members of the church. And I would hope that people who look on us could see that. Because we have the knowledge. God gives us the knowledge. We have it. We're supposed to obey it. God created our bodies, and when we put harmful substances into the bodies that he created, that he calls temples, we are basically shoving it in his face that we don't care about our body. We're like, okay, you gave us this body. I don't care what I put into it because I don't appreciate what you gave me. That's how it becomes our God instead of him becoming our God, because he gave us something and we're not taking care of it correctly. And I would say that was disappointing to him in many ways. So if we don't care what we put into it, we don't care what he did for us to give us this body. When you don't give your body proper nourishment, and when you don't take care of your body and make it strong, then your body has no reason to fight. You haven't given it any strength to fight. It just says, well, you give in to every temptation. You eat everything and you don't put good food into me. So I'm weak. I'm weak and I can't fight with you. This fight in a good way. This is why your body can't fight sicknesses. This is why you're going to be in bed for 2 weeks instead of 2 days, because your body isn't fighting for you. Now my body, when my body knows I don't get sick, but every year at Christmas time, the weather changes. And like I said before, I run up mountains. Well, I do it in below zero weather too. So it doesn't matter what the weather is. I'm still going up the mountain. And so I get a little stuffy nose, little runny eyes and things like that. And I know it's going to happen. It happens every year. And this is basically the only sickness I get once a year. But I've learned that my body starts to prepare me, that my body's like, okay, Charity, it's coming. Take good things like vitamin C or whatever it is into your body extra so you can fight this off. Because no matter what I do, I will still get it because of the change of weather and things. And so my body's like telling me, it's so smart. It says, Charity, fight this off for me so I can fight with you, and we can get over this sickness quicker. And that's what I do. And my family gets it, but they have it a lot longer than I do. I only have it for like a couple days, maybe 3. But it's not really severe either. Like I don't get really bad because I prepared my body, and I'm mentally fighting with my body, and my body is fighting for me. My body says, Charity, we are strong. We're going to overcome it, and we're going to do it quicker than later. I can feel my body fighting because my body knows that I take care of it, and knows that my body is strong, and knows I can fight it off quicker. And so I'm really not that sick because my body has the mechanisms it needs to be fighting with me. So when you are physically and spiritually strong, and you've connected these two aspects of your soul, this process gives you the confidence and encouragement to do the Lord's work in a way you never thought you could before. So, let's see. I'm running out of time, so maybe I'll save this part for next week. But let's see. One thing I recognize, okay, having control and discipline over our bodies means that we have control over the natural man. The natural man is an enemy to us. So when we have control and discipline over our bodies, it means that we have control over the enemy to us, which is also Satan. We have an enemy inside of us. This body is also an enemy. It's considered an enemy. And when we have control over it, then we can also control the influence of the adversary, which is Satan. So our physical bodies can overthrow us if we let substances control it. What a wonderful power that is. And all we have to do is restrain from something that would hurt our bodies. And the word of wisdom is there for us to love our bodies and take care of them, and to not hurt them. If we can love and take care of our bodies and not hurt them, then it will be easy for us to connect to the spiritual side of us. We can't disconnect the spiritual and physical side of us. And physical exercise, like we talked about last time, and then eating good food is how we combine that and make our spirit strong as well. If we can be obedient to the word of wisdom as it pertains to food, how much easier will it be to be obedient to all of God's laws and commandments? If we have to have food to live, so if we can control this, what else? Pretty much everything else is going to be easy, right? The word of wisdom teaches us obedience. It teaches us how powerful we can become. So the word of wisdom isn't meant to be a list of restrictions. It is meant to be a list of principles that teach us how to be strong. God gave us our bodies, and he knows what will strengthen our bodies and make them strong. The word of wisdom is a list of how we can find strength within ourselves to overcome something that is actually our enemy. If we can overcome the enemy inside of us, then Satan would have no control over us. If we can learn to balance a substance that we need to live on, then Satan would have no control over us. If we can overcome ourselves and overcome things that will bring us down and hurt us, then it will be much easier to overcome Satan. Overcoming the word of wisdom is like overcoming Satan. I guess I said that a few times. But the spiritual word of wisdom is the want and need to be obedient, knowing and trusting God that being obedient will be for our good. So it's really, all this is about obedience. He gives us our bodies, then he gives us food, and food can be very enticing and things like that. So it is important that we use food in the right way. So why do we see the word of wisdom now? So we see it in these days that we're supposed to exercise, eat healthy, and treat our bodies right. Because before the last 200 years, people didn't have garbage like we have now, food. People didn't have weight problems like they have now. People were always outdoors. People were always exercising and always working their bodies. So most people were not in unhealthy conditions. People were eating food off the land and were eating food that was good for them. People were playing outside and were active. Prophets of old, we notice, give us instruction before the onslaught of activity comes, like the family proclamation, recently the Jesus is the Christ. President Hinckley, when he told us to wear 2 sets of earrings, we all know that now we see the family being attacked. We see Jesus Christ being attacked. We see tattoos and piercings all over our bodies, and the prophets knew this would happen, so they give us warnings. And the word of wisdom is just a warning for us to live in good ways and to keep our bodies healthy and strong. So, let's see, I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to sing a quick song. Now, I don't know this song very well. I just looked it up. So bear with me. I probably won't get the melody right. But anyways, it's called The Word of Wisdom. Let's see. The Lord has revealed the word of wisdom to Joseph Smith, the prophet. If we obey and follow in faith, beautiful blessings are promised. Okay. A clean body, a clear mind, a spirit in tune with the Lord. These are promised to all who follow the word and will of God. So, that was terrible, I know, but anyways, think of the words that were in it. Those are good words. Keep the word of wisdom. If you're a member, really think about it before you go get your temple recommend. If you're treating your body kindly, if you're doing the things for your body that God would want you to do, and take it seriously. So when people do look at you, you're teaching the gospel to others, then they will look at you and they will say, you are powerful outside and inside. And when Jesus Christ comes again, he'll be able to look at us and say, you guys are warriors. And even if you're not a member of the church and you don't want to become a member of the church, follow the word of wisdom. It will lead you to the church, really. Next week, we'll talk about all the substances that people really do use that they have a hard time giving up. But when it pertains to food, use the word of wisdom and nourish your body. I do nourish my body. I can honestly say when I go, to the bishop and get my temple recommend, I can answer with clear conscience that I do obey the word of wisdom. As far as I know how to take care of my body, I'm always learning about my body, but I'm always trying to take care of it in a way. And I work out a lot, so I eat a lot of food. But I always eat food that will replenish my body and nourish it. And if you're doing it right, you put the right foods in, it will give you energy. It will give you the things that you need. And it's a learning process. I've had to learn what kind of foods my body likes, what kinds of foods it doesn't. And just take care of your body. It's a gift from God. And use your body in the right way. See ya, everybody.